I'd like to call this meeting of the planning board to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First item on the agenda is the approval of minutes, May 16, 2024. We do not have those before us, so we'll defer those to a later meeting. I'm glad you don't. We will look at the August 1st, 2024 meeting minutes if we have any comments or revisions on that. Who's thinking of you or?
Hold on. Let me open them up first. Okay, I'm ready.
This is just a couple words. Page 4, Project Lunar Realty. Third paragraph up from the bottom, whereupon the board. Second sentence should say the board requested that. Other comments, revisions? Nope. Not going to have a motion then to approve the minutes of August 1st, 2024 as modified.
So moved.
Phil, second by?
Second.
Giovanni, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against?
One abstention.
One abstention. Eric. Next item on the agenda is the possible extension or abandonment of applications pursuant to town code. First one being IWS Transfer Station, also known as Goshen Transfer Station upgrades. Sean.
Yes, just as the board's aware, I typically print out the extension request for the chairman. I have some computer problems today, so I'm just going to read you the extension request from my email. First one, IWS. This is the applicant's engineers, August 9th correspondence. On behalf of IWS Transfer Systems of New York, Cornerstone Engineering and Geology is submitting this written request for a 6-month extension to the attached resolution approved by the planning board on February 29th, 2024, and signed by Lee Burgess, planning board chairman, on March 7th, 2024, to according to general condition number 5. It is our understanding that the IWS project has been placed on the August 15th planning board meeting agenda to consider an extension to February 29th, 2024 approval. Please feel free to contact me with any questions. It's the applicant.
Do you have anything to offer up on that from your?
The applicant is currently seeking an EEP permit from the town board to operate a solid waste or to expand a solid waste management facility. So they're currently pursuing that actively.
They are active, okay. Comments from the board? Not Kelly, what?
February 20th of 2025.
Could I have said motion to extend their conditional approval to February 20th, 2025?
Oh, please.
Diana, second by?
I'll second.
Marty, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Next item is Altura Solar LLC, Nexamp Solar LLC. Sean.
This is NextAmp's August 12th, 2024 correspondence. Dear members of the Town of Goshen Town Board and Planning Board, NextAmp Solar and its wholly owned subsidiary Altura Solar LLC asks the Town of Goshen please consider an extension to its formally issued site plan approval and conditional special use permit through May 2025 due to delays in the landscape cap repair, preventing Altura Solar from commencing its formal work. Following the board's approval in May 2023, NextAmp proceeded to further diligence the project and pursue New York State DEC approvals and throughout the balance of 2023. On January 12, 2024, NYSDC issued its conditional letter approving the installation of the Altura Solar following completion of the cap repair at the Alturi and its subsidiaries. In the following months, NextAmp consulted with the Alturi to secure sources of funding for the cap repair, evaluate contractors, and establish a scope of work that would sufficiently address all of DEC's concerns and requirements. The process of consulting with Alturi to address some of the issues above proved to be more labor-intensive than anticipated. Funding was secured in May 2024. Contract agreements to cap repair execution have been executed as of June 2024. Currently, Alturi and its civil engineer Cornerstone are working with DEC to get fill import approved, as well as final stamps on the cap repair SWIP. While these approvals are expected to be issued within the coming months, The uncertain nature surrounding the timelines of their issuance and the subsequent need for DEC approval, said repairs are likely to substantially delay the solar facility's construction. In light of these challenges, in our persistent efforts to further the project in the face of several delays, we hope that the board will consider an extension to the site plan approval and conditional special permit issued to Altura Solar, allowing these approvals to be extended through May 2025. Nextamp and its partners expect to commence construction in late summer, early fall, but given the delays suffered by this project to date, additional time is requested to ensure subsequent extensions are not needed. We thank the board for their consideration and welcome any conversation needed to further clarify the circumstances surrounding this project. Thank you.
Did you get a turn?
Can you repeat that? Brett?
What do you have to say about that?
They also have recently submitted the SWIP for the town review, and we requested that they kind of coordinate internally because there's some problems with who's responsible for what.
Between Altura and
Nexamp. I believe that they're currently doing that. Frank and I had a call with the supervisor, what was that, Thursday last week? Yeah. To address that, and I believe that they are going to get back to us within a week or so on that.
Okay. Comments from the board?
Sounds like they're working on it.
Kelly?
March 6th of 2025.
And that would be, we're offering the extension on the site plan approval only. Yep. Could I have said motion to extend their conditional approval of the site plan to March 6, 2025?
I'll make a motion.
Phil, second by Giovanni. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Okay. Will be those notified, Kelly?
Yes.
Thank you. Then the next item on the agenda then would be 17A Warehouse, Jessup Switch Road, 20-1-48.21, 49.2, and 50.1. We have an application for amended site plan for a warehouse on 30.5 plus or minus acres along Jessup Switch Road and Pumpkin Swamp Road, otherwise known as County Route 25, in a CO zone with an AQ3 stream corridor and water supply watershed, floodplain, and ponding area overlays. And we're here this evening to consider some revised plans.
Good evening. Ross Wingovitz, Engineering and Surveying Properties, here this evening with Elias Mulrad, the applicant. We were before you, I think it was back in January, potentially, or earlier this spring, regarding the application. We first come in with an application to the workshop. We ended up looking at a grading permit. Al decided to move forward with a full application for the project because he really didn't want one without the other. It didn't make a lot of sense. So at that time, the board declared lead agency. There was different comments about not doing it, but I think we determined it was a type 1 action. It didn't matter. We couldn't not do it and go to the ZBA. We had to coordinate anyway. I was trying to remember what happened and then back to the minutes. So the board declared it was a type 1 action. They circulated for lead agency. I think in a position to declare yourself lead agency. At this point, we did go to the ZBA just for informational purposes only. We could not, they could not act because of the lead agency circulation of the type 1 action. And the fact that this board needs to take secret action before we can go back to the ZBA. I think you guys are painfully familiar with that process. It's happened several times recently. So we did submit a little more detailed plans regarding the concept layout, the variances required. Sean has done a thorough review, outlined them in his review memo, and I know that Kelly has prepared a draft part 2 for consideration. I'd like to address any comments, highlights Sean has, and I do have a few questions or explanations.
Thanks, Russ.
Okay.
Sure.
Sure, I'm just going to summarize some of the major points from my memo, and if the board has any questions, just feel free to jump in. So one of the items that we had pointed out was the use. So just like the other applications that were before you previously, the applicant proposing a warehouse. It was unclear whether the office use has been eliminated. I'm sure Rob is going to talk to that in a second. But what I wanted to go over with you was if the applicant anticipates something other than a warehouse use, that should be considered at this point, right? If the applicant wants some flexibility in terms of the different uses, then they should probably either give you a list of potential uses that may occupy these, or alternatively, you could move forward with it. If you were to approve it, then it's approved for warehouse, and then the applicant would have to come back if it was a use other than warehouse. Now, your code allows permitted uses to kind of float, if you will, in terms of if it's going from one permitted use to another permitted use. It may not need to come back here, but I think just given the nature of this and how the uses may interact with each other, I think you may want to consider having applicant come back here so you can review those uses. Impervious surface coverage, we as applicant provide some calculations on that. Something that's kind of unusual, I don't think I've seen it. They calculated the impervious surface coverage percentage to be over 100%. You might ask how that's possible. That goes back to the definition of your code for impervious surface coverage, where you deduct out wetlands, water courses, and floodplains. There's a lot of floodplains on the site, so what happens is when they run the numbers and they reduce it out, they actually get more than 100% impervious surface. That would require a variance, and they've indicated they would seek that variance. I mentioned the floodplain, just as you've done on other projects. This project's in the floodplain development overlay. The applicant's proposing to fill and raise the building above the floodplain. They will require a floodplain development permit from the building inspector, which requires a equivalent hydraulic area of what you fill in, the area volume of what you fill in the floodplain has to be removed from the floodplain. They've identified an area. I don't know if you've done the grading design on it yet. I did some rough numbers, and it looks like that area could be between 5 and 9 feet deep, and it's right next to Quaker Creek, so that's something we're going to want to evaluate sooner rather than later. They mentioned variances. There are a number of variances that they're going to be seeking from the ZBA. Primarily, most of those variants relate to the design standards, architecture, building size, roof slope, and things of that nature. The ZBA chairman did confirm the applicant had appeared before them for an informational session. Circulation, the applicant's revised circulation on the plan. The current plan before you now has a second driveway, and the applicant will be using that for entering trucks. I don't know about passenger cars. We had asked them to provide the stopping site distances on Jessup. So what I am concerned of is Jessup is a narrow road. You have somebody, passenger car, if you will, coming southbound towards the project, and it could be possible that a truck could be making that right turn movement in and have to go wide around to make that, and may have to approach that lane. So we're going to need to see stopping site distances and truck turning plans. Also, with regard to Jessup, on the previous application, the applicant was going to utilize Jessup Switch Road exclusively for the previously approved warehouses. There were some improvements required for Jessup Switch. I understand those have not been made, and I would say that if the applicant proceeds with this application, those improvements should be made before the board issues final approval on this application. And then lastly, I was unsure whether the applicant was still intending to proceed with the filling permit. It sounds like this evening that they are. So just keep that in the back of your mind. And it's site plan, lot merger, as well as clearing and grading permit.
So, just a couple things I wanted to bring up in regards to Sean's comments. One is the parking. So previously, we had defined parking when we did this, kind of how I've done it in the town of Walkill, which they require is that office be broken out separately from warehouse. Just recently in All in Audio, we just talked about the fact that the buildings were warehouses, and the warehouses had so many employees. We use a conservative number, and those warehouses do have accessory office space, lunch rooms in them, so forth and so on, that is more heated conditioned space. So we think that the warehouse definition and then parking, as long as you use employees, includes those areas like office and lunchrooms and so forth. So we did our calculation for parking based on number of employees, and we trying to think, what did we come up? One employee per 1,500 square feet. So Orange County Partnership a while back did a study. It was over almost 1,800 square feet per employee was what they came up with across the county. So we're using 1,500 to be conservative, to come up with the number of employees, and then based on that, we're still almost double what we're providing on site as far as parking. We're more than double the number of employees we're expecting to have here. That's consistent with what Al has been seeing on site with the occupancy of his other buildings, parking, there's plenty of parking, there's too much parking. And
I
Sean's,
just want to bring in one, when we're talking about warehousing, it's really warehousing and light manufacturing, I just want to make sure that,
okay.
I don't want to get boxed in just into manufacturing.
Is that, I don't
And
know.
is it office?
This goes back to your comment, if there's anything else we want to include, let's outline it now.
So, the application, the way it was presented and submitted was for a warehouse
Right.
facility. The way it was reviewed and has been reviewed to date was for a warehouse facility. So again, I think you.
Might as well go back and say light manufacturing.
So Sean has asked us to give him a laundry list if there's any other things.
Any other possibilities that you?
That possibilities that you may want to have different tenancies, so that they can consider all those in their determination, right? So-
Excellent.
Now, in terms of the office, and your code does allow parking for warehouses to be based on employees. And that kind of makes sense, right? Warehouses are large structures, they got a lot of square footage, usually not a lot of employees, so therefore not a lot of parking. It doesn't make the same exception for offices. It specifically says in the code, and I looked it up, give you the reference if you like, that separate uses are to be treated separately. So if you have a warehouse and an office, you should analyze the warehouse. They could do it on an employee basis if they wish, but the office does not have that employee basis attached to it, and that is consistent with how you review the other applications. Now, in terms of the overabundance of parking, I'm pretty sure I had made a recommendation that if they have a lot of parking that they don't necessarily think that they need based on their data, then I don't think that it should be approved at this time. I think it should probably be banked, something else like that. You don't want to see all this additional impervious surface that you just don't need.
So each of the other warehouses you approved have broken out office space separate from warehouse space.
Correct.
The plans you designed, yeah. Yeah, if you look back on those.
No, I know I did, and that's what I started with, that I did that for these,
Yes.
but I just did that consistent with what I had done in Wallkill, because they specifically required
Yeah,
it.
this code does as well.
Sean, help me follow what you're talking about. You're saying that X number of spaces is what's required for this new warehouse. You're saying because of the abundance of parking spaces at the other warehouses, that it's already constructed, you're suggesting we bank parking spots in this new warehouse?
Not exactly that. What I'm saying is your code has two ways to calculate parking just for warehouses.
Right.
One can be on square footage, which is pretty easy, and the other can be on employees, which can get kind of difficult because
You don't know, right?
So they're using data from the county that, and Mr. Mulright's experiences. And when they do that, they say, well, we still have this overabundance of parking. And my recommendation to you is, if they think they have too much parking and they have the data to substantiate this and the experience to substantiate it, then they really shouldn't get that billed out at this time. They should be banked and, left there so that they can develop it in the future if Frank makes a determination that it's necessary.
How does light manufacturing change?
I would have to look at that. I didn't look at that as well. But I think light manufacturing actually does not have that employee criteria, so it could actually require additional points.
Is the building going to be designed as a flex building? We're breaking up into 6 stalls. Are they like, just, if someone wants 2 or someone
Yeah,
wants
there are
3?
division walls between each for tenancy, so.
Yeah,
some
so
of them-
let's say they can take half the building if they want, they can take 1/6 of the building.
Yeah,
It's that type of
Yeah.
operation. And likewise, can you have mixed warehouse and light manufacturing in the same building?
I don't think that
Does
there's.
the code allow that, of zone, fire codes?
I don't think there's any prohibition in the zoning code. There may be certain requirements in the fire code that they would have to consider when they're planning this out.
Russ, could you speak to lighting elevation of 3 feet? How did you derive at the 3 feet elevation for the fill?
based on the floodplain elevation and the fact that we need to be 2 feet above it as a minimum.
Excuse me?
Based on the floodplain elevation on site and the fact that we have to be a minimum of 2 feet above it under the floodplain, under the code, that's how we came up with it.
And will this create for you any stormwater runoff issues?
No, it's all based kind of on the impervious area, so they'll be similar to what they would have been previously. Site distance, I just want to go over that quickly. So Sean had a question about the site distance. We did do the site distance here, and we're fine. This was actually done previously for the project. But at this intersection, there is a limited site distance looking right. If you ever go down Jessup Switch, there's a little jog right there, a little left-right jog. There is some tree removal we can do to improve it, but we determined it wasn't a good spot for trucks to be exiting onto. So what we've shown is that this is going to be an entrance only, no exit. So there's a DNE sign, do not enter going this way, or do not exit. That's going to require trucks, so trucks can come in, they can park into the load, they're going to have to come out around this direction. This brings them to this intersection, which is a very safe intersection.
Ross,
To the
just to
intersection.
be clear, I was requesting the stopping site distance. I know you already provided the intersection site distance.
Yeah.
Right, so my concern is that a truck in the right lane is turning right because of the narrowness of the road. They need to encroach.
With those
on-
turning movements, how far can they?
Somebody coming the other direction might not have enough time to bridge.
Understood.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah. So you understood what we proposed, and you're just saying, okay, great, just make sure that the guy
Doesn't have.
making the right can see it, and somebody can see it.
Yes.
Just for clarity, Sean, we're looking at the deficiency of the separation between the driveway cuts of, what's it, 458 feet. Is that from the edge of the flare, the inside flare to the inside flare of the other one, or is it center line of the road? How's that measured?
I believe the ZBA has typically measured it from the inside part
Inside
of the
of the
flare,
flare.
the closest dimension. Yeah.
So we're showing it percent on the center line, do you want us to modify that?
Well,
to
just for
inside?
consistency,
I
that's
don't-
why I just didn't know
I
how
didn't
it
know
was.
if there was
Yeah, it
a,
says center line.
The ZBA would sort that out, yeah.
okay.
Okay.
Regulation, let's see, anything else? Yeah, water, we have a, well that Al already drilled, we've got that location approved, we'll have to submit a protocol and go through the testing as well as part of that. Sewers going to the sewer plant that Al already owns. That has a permitted capacity of 25,000 gallons per day, he's using less than 10, and he actually just sent me the data for this year, and they're just over 7,000 gallons a day that the plant is using. So we'll provide all that data in response to Sean's comments.
In the fire protection, you're going to be pulling from the tank and pumps on the,
Yeah, so the
Nearby
goal
perhaps?
was, and Al, when they did this, he wanted to make sure he could use that. So we'll have to have a fire protection expert give you something in writing, basically saying that, yes, this building can use this tank.
will there be hydrants and everything around the building, or?
There's a hydrant here, yeah, there'll have to be hydrants up.
Okay.
That was it as far as kind of the plan elements. We know we've got to do the engineering to satisfy the engineering comments moving forward, and I know that Kelly has a part two.
Are you doing the sidewalk in this area?
So Al had done a sidewalk to nowhere here that we're gonna need to remove as part of our floodplain mitigation area. Sean noted in his comments, we're gonna ask
Well, I'm talking
for
about Jessup.
a variance
because
for
it's
that.
very narrow.
Same thing with Jessup. I think we're gonna ask for a variance for that.
We don't give variances on sidewalks.
Uh, I
Every
don't know
time
what
we
they
have a-
do now.
Ah.
So I don't know what they're gonna do. It's gonna be a surprise product.
Has there been consideration in the design of the building? I know, I guess you're looking at a flat roof on the building.
No, it's gonna be a pitch roof.
Pitch
Well,
roof,
but it's, they're what is it?
but just not the code,
I think
the
it's
8
gonna
on
be
12.
12 on 2 or something.
Yeah,
like
right.
that.
And
Yeah, shallow pitch.
so you're gonna use a similar architecture to the buildings
I
you,
would mimic whatever I got.
Yes.
right.
Any consideration
so
of
the
putting
stone.
solar panels on the roof?
I don't like solar panels on the roof.
Why?
Because
I have solar panels on my roof.
But you're not,
Over the years, I had leaky roofs, and I don't need to add more problems. That's the way I feel about it right now, but everybody is pitching me to put solar panels on.
It may just be a matter of the way the structure is assembled, just to support it. that's
I
all.
mean,
Well,
typically,
I'm
Al,
gonna be buying the building, in such a fashion that it's gonna be able to support.
Should you decide to later on.
You got it.
Okay,
Because
Fair
he
enough.
has been approached by several entities, we've talked about this before, Helen and I. And he is designing these buildings so they can.
I can support it should we want it. Good. Oh,
So I prepared for you a draft Part 2 EAF. Obviously, a couple of things have changed just based on this evening's discussion. I've tried to update them as we were talking about them, so I'll leave those off. But just generally, impact on land was yes. There was one potential small impact, which was the proposed action may result in increased erosion, whether from physical disturbance or vegetation removal, including treatment from herbicides. There were, the impact on geological features was no. The impact on surface water was yes, with two potentially small impacts. The proposed action may involve construction within or adjoining a freshwater or tidal wetland or in the bed or banks of any other water body. And the proposed action may require the construction of new or expansion of existing wastewater treatment facilities. I also had two potentially moderate to large impacts. The proposed
now,
action,
Kelly,
yes,
back to that last one you just said.
yes.
The construction of new or expansion of existing. We already have an existing wastewater treatment facility. It's got excess capacity. Why is that
So based on what the DEC says in their guidelines, wastewater treatment systems that discharge a certain number of gallons per day, it has to be 1,000. They may have, so if it discharges less than 1,000 gallons per day, then that have no industrial or other non-sewage wastes may have small impacts. This one they said.
so if they need a speedies
discharges
permit or if it's
1,200 gallons per day.
Okay.
So that's what kicked into that. So the two potentially moderate to large are the proposed action may cause soil erosion or otherwise create a source of stormwater discharge that may lead to siltation or other degradation of receiving water bodies. And the proposed action may affect the water quality of any water bodies within or downstream of the site of the proposed action. This is near the Quaker Creek, right? Impact on groundwater was yes, with one proposed small impact. The proposed action may require new water supply wells or create additional demand on supplies from existing water supply wells. Their EAF said that the intended water supply is on site and transition community water supply. Impact on flooding had a lot of potential moderate to large impacts may occur that is because of the floodplain. And those were, the proposed action may result in development in a designated floodway. The proposed action may result in development within a 100-year floodplain and within a 500-year floodplain. The proposed action may result in or require modification of existing drainage patterns. And the proposed action may change flood water flows that contribute to flooding. Impacts on air was no.
I only have one question. On A, floodway, so it's very specific, the floodway is really right within the banks of the Quaker Creek, so you're
So
not
it pops
proposing
up.
anything or just
You just
answer
have to
that?
respond and
Yep.
say that,
Okay.
yes. Impacts on air was no. Impacts on plants and animals was yes, with one potential small impact that the proposed action may result in the reduction or degradation of any habitat used by any rare, threatened, or endangered species as listed by New York State and federal governments.
What is that species?
I know this. It's the, I think it's the two bats and something.
Plant.
Hold on, I got it.
Some
Yeah, but I wanna find it.
upland sandpiper.
Sandpiper?
Yeah. Northern harrier,
upland
short-eared
sandpiper?
owl, and the
Upland
upland
sandpiper.
sandpiper.
Habitat or something like this is in Pennsylvania.
If I could just on that
In the west
one
of
issue,
Pennsylvania.
the DEC has written on this to you, and they've indicated that the applicant will likely require an incidental take permit from them. So they're gonna have to sort that out with DEC, but I just wanted to let you know that corresponds.
They obviously have not been to the site.
Impact on agricultural resources was no. Impact on aesthetic resources was no. Impact on historic and archaeological resources was yes. Potentially small impact that the proposed action may occur wholly or partially within or substantially contiguous to an area designated as sensitive for archaeological sites on the New York State Historic Preservation Office Archaeological Site Inventory. They did submit the letter, so they still,
We'll include that in the response.
yeah, but SHPO responded saying There aren't any, but it needs to be addressed here.
Before you move on from aesthetic,
Yes, that is because of the current land use patterns proposed, between the proposed project and a scenic or aesthetic resource.
is the stream corridor overlay does not play in this?
It doesn't, it's not considered a scenic or aesthetic resource of the town, the stream corridor. But you still get to look at the architectural and things like that under your site plan criteria. It's just not something that's studied under the environmental. So you're still gonna wanna see, like, what does this look like, things like that. If this was adjacent to the Heritage Trail, this would be yes, or large. Impact on open space and recreation is no. Impact on critical environmental areas is no. Impact on transportation is yes, and I had put in there a potentially small impact under other impacts for the internal circulation issues that the board had discussed during your last meeting. But I think that that also needs to be amended to discuss the parking issues and in relation to any additional uses that you have, how that's gonna impact traffic, circulation, and parking.
Any reason why you switched to check boxes and check marks instead of the X's? So it threw me off completely.
I don't know.
You're paying attention.
I will use X's from now on.
Just,
Sometimes the checks don't come through to you guys,
Just
so I should
consistent.
just stick with the X's. Okay.
Energy.
So impact on energy is yes, and actually based on discussions tonight, that's been amended, so that's yes with a potentially small impact of the proposed action may involve heating and or cooling of more than 100,000 square feet of building area when completed. And also a potential small impact to consider alternative energy sources. There's a discussion on solar on roofs, and I know that's something that the board has talked about in the past, so they should discuss green energy sources. Impact on noise or, so I put that in under other impact. 15, impact on noise, odor, and light was yes. The proposed action may produce sound above noise levels established by local regulation. That was a potentially small impact, that was temporary during construction. That, I don't think it will change, but depending on what they come back with uses, usually it has to be entirely indoors, but if for some reason they had something that had all the doors open all the time and was loud, they may need to look at that, but right now it's for temporary during construction. And then a potential small impact, the proposed action may result in lighting, creating sky glow brighter than existing area conditions. Impact on human health was no. Consistency with community plans was yes. That actually should be a moderate to large impact rather than a potentially small impact for C. The proposed action is inconsistent with local land use plans or zoning regulations. And consistency with community character, I increased the size of the X's. I will not do that next time, they'll all be the same sizes. And I had a potentially small impact for E. The proposed action is inconsistent with the predominant architectural scale and character. And really that was, it goes to what you were saying earlier, due to the size and being so close to the roadway, and usually everything in this area is set back farther, so I felt that dominant architectural.
So it's not weighted against the other warehouses adjacent to it.
Well, that's only on this project site, so that's
You're
one
looking
way
at
to look
global.
at it, but to look at the neighborhood there, it's the community character. And that's all I have.
So, just for Al's, they're not beating up on you. This is this is a standard form that they have to fill out in a standard way, and we have to give them an answer to each one of these in writing so that they can.
I think they certainly say
It's
this.
not designed just for me. huh?
Not designed just for you. This is not the Alamo Red.
Sean, if I can ask, what are the improvements that need to be made to Jessup Switch, and who's responsible to make those improvements?
Yeah, so let me just give you a little history on that. So in 2017, this board had approved those two warehouses. Ross, can you point those out? The two warehouses? Okay. And in 2015, the board approved the smaller warehouse all the way on the right. So when the smaller warehouse came in, all that traffic went out to 17A, yeah. And when the other warehouses came in, this board was worried about overloading, what's the name of the private road?
There's this Remy
Jen
Drive.
Lane is what
Yeah,
it's.
Reading,
Yeah.
yeah, that's it. So the board required that Mr. Mullenweg put in 2 gates. The gates would allow emergency vehicles, and all traffic from those 2 warehouses was to come out in Jessup. He would recognize that Jessup was a substandard width, and the requirement of that was that for, I think, either a building permit or CO, that Mr. Mullenweg was required to expand Jessup's width. That has not occurred. You're obviously, applicant's asking you to put more traffic out in the Jessup switch right now. So since it wasn't done previously and it should have been, our recommendation is that it would be done before this even goes forward.
I saw something in what you had written between the 24-foot wide and 25-foot wide.
Yeah.
What is it supposed to be?
I believe it was 25 feet on the
Yeah.
original plan.
I don't know why we picked that number, but
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't know.
It's a round number.
It might have been because of the
24
turning
It's
analysis.
even.
24 isn't even, 25.
It's an even number.
It might have been because of the turning analysis or the town's road standards. I don't know.
I think I recall the town's road standards
Is that what it
coming
was?
into the discussion, yeah.
We'll look at that, this might be 25. Or 24 currently.
So that, did I hear correctly, that was for basically improving it from the bridge to the the existing southernmost entrance?
Yeah, where the applicant's current driveway is.
Yes.
To the bridge, because nothing was proposed north on Jessup Switch. Now they're going north, and we've asked them for a turning plan to see if it would be necessary to go further.
All right, thanks.
Historically, why didn't we mandate the road improvements be done before CFO of the other buildings?
Say that one more time.
Why didn't we mandate that the road improvements on Jessup were completed before we gave CFO for that last building?
I believe that this board did require that, it just did not get done. I don't know why it did not get done.
Thank you.
I was just gonna reference that you also received your 239 report from the county. They recommended for the proposed lot merger, and if you didn't get a copy of it. They recommended for the proposed lot merger that it's a local determination, but they're saying that they don't have, all of the necessary documents that they need for the site plan, so they're asking for the SWIP, the lighting plan, and the landscaping plan. So when that comes in from the applicant, we'll make sure to send them an updated.
Do they take 30 days again?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's complete.
yeah. But we get that once
Right.
Russ submits to part 3, then we would send that over and they should be able to evaluate from there. But it's not usual that you get these, so.
And is this bike path just sort of some like informal, unofficial thing?
Oh, no, it's a 4 or 5 foot wide stone dust path that
Oh, is that
was
it?
installed initially because we didn't
I'm sorry,
go
where's
for
that?
the stone dust bike path.
It's gonna be abandoned.
That
Yeah,
is
yeah.
built, it was built as part of the original, the first warehouse. It was required because of that section of the code.
Are you likely to find people making their own bike path again in that area? Like, is it used?
It is never been used.
Okay.
Yeah, it just doesn't-
I use it a
But it was
couple
required-
times just to see how it was built and so on, but otherwise I didn't see it.
Yeah.
You know, there's an awful lot of walkers around the parking lot and the whole area, you know, the whole complex. You know, I'm talking about a lot of walkers. Every day noontime, you can find at least 10 of them walking around, you know, so.
But the path was required, and it was the only variance we would have needed for the initial application. Since we're already going there, we're gonna ask for it.
So,
Or some semblance of it. If you know, if they say Jessup switch is required, we can do away with this because it doesn't go anywhere, and maybe compromise. But
people can still make their way on the pavement
yes.
wherever they're going?
Yeah.
Other questions or concerns from the board? Okay.
So if you would like, you need to assume lead agency, you received nobody that was objecting.
Could I have said motion?
I'll make it.
Marty, second by Giovanni. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against?
And you can adopt the part 2 as amended this evening.
Again, could I have said motion? Eric, second by
Second.
Phil. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against?
And you can send Ross on his merry way to get his part 3 going.
Thank you very much.
Do I need a motion for that?
Thank you.
Thank you very
Have a
much.
good night.
And just so you know, I'll send you a revised copy for, unless you guys want me to.
Yes, so,
What do we or do we not have?
let me ask a question. Did you receive any lessons? So you have options. Right now, you have received no applications for your next agenda. However, Lightstar Solar, the one on 94, is going to be making a submission in the next day or so. So if you'd like, you could either cancel the meeting because they did not make the submission in a timely fashion, or you can allow them to submit that late and then have that one matter on the agenda.
I do have the digital copy I can submit, I can send everybody, I just don't have your hard
Hard
copy,
copy.
so. if
So
you want to put it in the next-
It's
I
totally
should
up to
have
you.
it by Monday, I would think, Tuesday maybe, I don't know.
What do we look like for the 19th?
You have one public hearing, and that was for, Health Fund. Yeah,
That's the, we had adjourned it to that date.
that's right.
Phil,
Yes.
I'm taking a poll, and
Yes.
you are the first on the poll, as far as having a meeting on the 5th for Lightstar 94, or defer it to the 19th.
Hold on a sec. How many do we have on 19?
Just the one public hearing right
Okay.
now. I never know what's gonna
But
come in.
there's still time for stuff to come in.
Correct.
Which doesn't guarantee anybody's spot on the agenda.
Right.
Just putting that out there.
It's always subject to discussion.
But I can tell you from the staff meetings, there's been a couple small applications, primarily resulted to code enforcement, so Frank's done much work for you, but, there was nothing.
Thank you, Frank.
Pleasure. Either one's fine with me.
Okay, we have an either one. Jeremy,
I'd say we combine them into the 19th.
Second.
19th?
Combine them to the 19th and cancel the 5th.
Check.
I want the 5th.
So we got 2.5 for the 5th. It sounds like it's 2.5. Phil went either way.
Yeah, but I thought it was cancel, cancel, cancel,
Yeah.
cancel, so you got
Four
four
to
for
one.
cancel.
Right, so it's 2.5.
Who's the
That's
half?
2.5.
Well, Phil's a half.
Oh,
He
Phil.
was half either way.
So he's four,
He's
four
a
and
half, I'm 1, Diana's 1.
So it's
That's
4.5
2.5.
to 2.5.
I'm an engineer, I know my math.
I don't know, that was a little questionable.
That's exactly right. You know your man.
It's like, he knows his gallons and.
Anyway, okay, so it sounds like we're not gonna have a meeting on the 5th. So do we need a motion then to cancel the meeting for the 5th?
Certainly make it clearer.
Okay, can I have that motion, Phil?
Yes, you may have that motion.
Second by
I'll second it.
Giovanni, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? See you on the 19th?
All right?
All right.
You guys are gonna miss
Diana
me.
for staying strong. I thought Eric was gonna get. It's like, I was.
I left them alone.
Yeah, he's given up.
Give it up.
I thought those zoning plans were.
My English.
The comprehensive plan, I forgot about
Motion to adjourn?
Yep.
Yeah, we need to do that.
I place a motion.
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn by Diana, second by Eric, all in favor, say aye.